On 3rd January 2024, at exactly 8:11 p.m., a man and a woman were captured on CCTV footage entering Papino Apartments for a night at a B&B together. Their body language, however, betrays their lack of genuine interest in each other. The woman would later be identified as Starlet Wahu, a popular socialite, and sadly, this was the last time she would be seen alive. The man, later identified as John Ong'oa Matara, would be captured on CCTV exactly 1 hour 59 minutes later, leaving the building alone. Of course, this detail alone is not suspicious, but observe what happens when he leaves. Unlike when he and Starlet initially arrived, this time there were people who all seemingly noted that something was off with the man. When he stepped out of the elevator, a group of people had all their attention fixed on him. But it doesn't end there. Near the exit door, he encountered another man who, after passing him, turned around to scrutinize him. What had these people seen that made them so stunned that they even turned around to look at a complete stranger? And then, finally, just outside the building, a woman's attention was fixated at Matara. What was it that these people saw? Well, whatever it was, it couldn't have been worse than what the B&B owner saw the next morning when she went to open the room that Matara and Starlet had booked for the night. She was met with the horrific scene of a lifeless body of a woman near the door entrance, lying in literally a pool of blood. As confirmed by an autopsy report, Matara had stabbed Starlet in the neck and thigh and had also strangled her. But before leaving the B&B, he locked the door with a padlock and took the key to prevent any chance of her escape. Tragically, she bled to her death. It would later be reported that Matara had been spotted leaving the building in blood-stained clothes, and that is likely the reason that the people he encountered were all suspicious. So, what really happened that night? Well, the answer to this lies in the testimonies of Matara's surviving victims. The testimonies of all of Matara's victims reveal that he indeed has a pattern, which will lead us directly to the answer of the haunting question: what was the motive?
The plot is getting complex, with more victims of John Ong'oa Matara emerging.
We will refer to the victim by numbers. For victim 1, the script wasn't too different from Starlet's. First, they meet on a dating app. After a week, Matara insists on meeting physically in Matara's house. If the victim refuses, like was this first victim's case, Matara will confirm if you leave alone, and if you do, he will come over to you. For absolutely no reason, at whatever time in the night, he will attack you violently out of nowhere and start strangling you and then torture you. For victim 1, she testifies having been tortured and beat up mercilessly for 6 hours straight, while being threatened with not 1, not 2, but 3 knives. Matara then proceeds to undress the victim and rape her. Remember, in Starlet's case, at the crime scene, there were condoms and a HIV test kit too. The police revealed that one of the condoms was used, suggesting that he may have raped Starlet too. After all this, he demands for cash. The devil really is in the detail. And even though the media won't call him a monster, I will. To save her life, victim 1 offered to give Matara her locked savings totaling to 18,000 Kenyan shillings. That's roughly 140 US dollars. After Matara left, victim 1 was rescued later in the night by neighbors who helped her report to Kahawa Sukari police. Despite filing a report, she expressed frustration, saying that the police exhibited minimal effort in tracking Matara. The police's capability is questioned again because in Starlet's case, they were able to track him in less than a day using his phone number, which apparently hadn't changed in a very long time. Note, victim 1's incident took place at least 7 months before Starlet's murder. And when you hear that these details are what the police were working with and still slacking on, it only makes you more enraged.
He was the same guy. I can testify that. Even when I transferred money, it came John Ong'oa Matara. It's the same number that I saw people complain and post online. Even the DCI post that today.
But before we move on, one particular detail stood out in the first victim's narration of events. Before Matara left the house after torturing her, which was at about 2:30 a.m., he shouted, "Babe," loudly a number of times. This seemingly strategic move was aimed at creating the impression that he and the first victim were a couple, possibly dissuading neighbors from intervening even if they suspected that she was in danger. The fact that it worked only proves how concerningly nonchalant many Kenyans are and how normalized abuse is, that a criminal would know that shouting "babe" would be enough protection to allow him to escape. It's puzzling that a murder could be going down in the next room and some Kenyans couldn't be more bothered. For victim 2, the pattern was the same. They met on a dating app. She didn't live alone, so he opted for a B&B, and then out of nowhere at around midnight, he turned violent. He used a knife and an iron box to threaten her and physically torture her. He demanded for 50,000 Kenyan shillings, which is roughly 320 US dollars, and then the story goes on similarly. He escaped. Victim number 3. Same pattern, but if at this point you're fearing dating apps, you might as well fear all apps, because it might interest you to know that he targeted women even outside of dating apps. For instance, for victim number 3, she narrates that they met on an app called Gigi. For those who aren't familiar, Gigi is like an Amazon where basically you sell things online and buy things online. Basically an online supermarket. Matara posed as a buyer to the victim who was selling her camera. From there, the script is the same. He held her hostage, tied her up, stole her ID, camera, mobile phone, 40,000 Kenyan shillings, which is around 255 US dollars, more money from mobile loans, and also texted her friends to send money. Imagine how traumatizing this was, trying to sell your camera innocently, and then you cross paths with a monster who steals everything you have, tortures you, and proceeds to leave you in debt.
Why are we in a hotel room? Do I need to be here to sell the camera? And he got violent.
The woman further alleges While in the room, Matara, with another person who was hiding in the same room, sexually assaulted her. The woman was threatened to undress as Matara forced making love with her.
A caretaker at apartments near Kenyatta University disclosed Matara's disturbing actions during his tenancy, shedding light on his criminal behavior before being kicked out in August last year.
Victim number 4 and 5 happened to be at his former apartments near Kenyatta University, where he was chased away. The caretaker of his former apartment says that in one incident, he had taken a student hostage and for an entire day, after inviting her over casually, tortured her. When the victim narrowly escaped, she informed the police. When a similar incident occurred for a second time, Matara was chased away from the apartment he was staying in. And then, notably, when the caretaker reported to the police, they told him, if you aren't the one that has been affected, you can't come and report on their behalf. I won't pretend that I'm shocked by the Kenyan police because they've never exactly been effective, but I am shocked that it's this bad. Victim number 6, same script, but this time he was caught in the act. It happened at Kasarani and he had been caught holding a lady hostage and torturing her. The lady screamed and luckily she was rescued by Boda Boda riders. This incident was, however, not reported to the police. And the script goes on and on and on until the most recent victim, which was actually reported on 2nd of January 2024 at Kasarani police station, just 2 days before he would kill his final victim, Starlet Wahu. The narrow gap in these events is telling of how frequent he may have been doing this. From these patterns, you can see that his motives were clearly sex and money.
And as Ben Kirui reports, police from Nairobi region are still in the process of compiling more cases to determine the actual number of victims.
Matara would later be tracked down by the police at Mbagathi Hospital, where he took himself after leaving Starlet in the B&B to die. He was receiving treatment for a cut on his thigh, and although police conclude that the injury might have been self-inflicted so that he could mislead the investigations, that's a rather poor conclusion, especially in light of the fact that Starlet wasn't his first victim, meaning he wasn't in panic mode and wasn't even trying to escape because he had done this at least 10 other times. A more believable conclusion was that Starlet actually cut him, but in self-defense. But how was Matara able to get away with these crimes for so long despite them having been reported to the police? Well, he wasn't working alone. Matara belonged to a criminal ring, and NTV identified one of the members as, quote, an upcoming Kajiado politician. It's unclear why they withheld his name, even though they showed us his face and what they meant by upcoming, or if they meant to use the word aspiring, because politics isn't a game or talent like football that people can refer to you as upcoming. But the topic on how traditional media seems to be falling from its former glory is going to be a video for another day. The incident in the clip you just watched from the upcoming Kajiado politician who works with Matara also took place at Papino Apartments. This was the same place Starlet was murdered, and if I could take you back, look keenly enough, and from the CCTV footage when he and Starlet arrived at Papino, you can see him pointing towards the elevator. This is not just a mere act of giving directions, or coincidence that he knew exactly his way around the building. But what if I told you that Matara had given us clues about his criminal side all this time without us even realizing it? What if I told you that Matara had told the world word for word that he was a criminal? Matara's musical background. Turns out, Matara gave the whole musical thing a shot, and I can confirm that surviving 10 of Matara's YouTube music videos was its own kind of torture. The name of the channel itself forebodes his rebellious character. It almost shows you that he was proud to make his rebellion a part of his personality and brand. More than half of the songs, including Reigning in the Ghetto, Generation After Generation, which was uploaded twice, Ghetto Youth Crucifixion, and Tribulations, all have a similar theme, which is basically that ghetto life is hard. And then, in his other songs, we find more telling lyrics like, "Time has proven that I can't die. If they try, they will surely die," from his song Time Has Proven. In another song, No Blood, he sings, "When there is no weed in my brain, it's like there's no blood in my vein." It's no surprise that at Starlet's crime scene, there was alcohol and weed, and even in most of the pictures, he always had a bottle of alcohol. Even in his house, there were multiple bottles of alcohol and weed found by the police after he was arrested. So when he sang that lyric, "When there is no weed in my brain, it's like there's no blood in my vein," it literally summarized his reality with drug abuse. And then he had a song called Sodomite, and the fact that he would name a whole song that is quite telling. The entire video is a static picture of two priests kissing. All 9 of the 10 uploads were made back in 2018, and for 4 years he did not upload any music. And then, in 2022, he dropped his final song till date, System Dropout, with the biggest clues of them all. In the song, he tells his almost non-existent fan base of his plans to take a long break. He sings, "Another call in life, you call it a crime," hinting that he was quitting music to pursue his life calling, a life of crime. He also sings, "I guess I'm a system dropout, but I'll never be a life dropout." By system dropout, one can only conclude that it could imply a rejection of established legal systems. But "I'll never be a life dropout" strikingly resembles his other lyric from his song Time Has Proven, where he sang, "Time has proven that I can't die." It seems that the clues were right there, in plain sight. Naturally, his channel has since gotten more attention since the murder expose, and his views have shot up. A number of Kenyans were curious to see what he sounded like, and some of the reviews seemed to agree with mine on the quality of his music. One user said, I'll translate, "This voice is so bad you can remove your ears and set them aside." Another one said, "Truly, this guy didn't have a future." And then, of course, there were those who, upon listening to his music, arrived at the conclusion that he was, quote, talented. I'm more concerned that my vote carries the same weight as anyone who thinks John Matara is talented. If that is your standard of talent, it totally makes sense why our leaders are, well, what they are. In short, if you see yourself reasoning like this, do everyone a solid favor and don't vote in the next election. But what makes Starlet's murder truly devastating was that it could have been prevented. Starlet was John Matara's first publicized murder, but it may not have been his first. Even though the police failed, it's very commendable that these victims actually reported Matara, because apparently he used to take nudes of the victims and threatened to release them if they reported him. These victims did the best they could to ensure that the same didn't happen to other people by reporting, and it's a shame that the police, with all their resources, couldn't do their part. The Starlet Wahu murder has also brought to light very concerning attitudes regarding the value of a woman's life. Upon the announcement of Starlet's demise, there were those that were of the opinion that her lifestyle, perceived as controversial, consequently implied that her murder was justifiable. And this is the kind of society that monsters like Matara thrive in. A society that determines a woman's right to life based on her sexual purity or love for money. But this same society ignores that Matara had multiple victims. So it's concerning that one man could cause this much harm, and it is his victims who are being looked down upon. Yet, less than a week after Starlet died, another woman was killed by her lover in their home. So, if this one was in her house with her lover and she is dead, what then will you warn victims about here? Not to live with their lovers? Stop killing women.
There's no woman who needs protection. This nonsense that says let's protect women, it's wrong. Just stop attacking them. There won't be a need for protection, because it is us who attack women.